I'll understand the control technique.
For nearly all its history, competitive NES Tetris has been broadly split among two playstyles, DAS and Hypertapping. DAS was the default for a long time, holding down the D-pad to move the pieces to the side with the game's built-in side-to-side motion.
No, I want to watch this.
While this was limiting on higher level speeds, the only alternative that could gain a real advantage was Hypertapping, which required you to tap your finger on the D-pad at around 12 times per second or faster, which obviously a lot of people can't do. From 2010 to 2017, DAS players dominated because the Venn diagram of people who played NES Tetris at a high level and also could hypertap was like 3 people. In 2018, when a rookie hypertapper won, a new younger demographic was inspired to pick up the technique, and ever since, hypertappers have won virtually every major tournament, comprising the entire top 8 of the most recent World Championships in 2020. That is, until now, where a third playstyle is positioned to join the fray. It's even faster than hypertapping, but like DAS, it doesn't require superhuman finger speeds, so anyone could theoretically
also, you always lose accuracy by going faster,
the controller or your hands in any way either, so it's completely legal for tournaments. It sounds too good to be true, but it is in fact very real, and there's already one member of the community.
It's a little bit like whenever you play Minecraft, whatever. If you play PvP, you need a high CPS, but you always lose a little bit of aiming accuracy with high CPS.
Who's mastered it and started setting world records. It's time to enter the realm of rolling. Rolling is also sometimes called fly hacking because it resembles a technique popularized by Hector "Fly" Rodriguez on arcade cabinets well over a decade ago, where he realized that instead of mashing one finger on the buttons, he could roll the fingers on both hands in succession and achieve much faster speed. He used this method to set numerous world records on games such as Track and Field, but the issue with translating this over to the NES is that arcade cabinets have very large buttons, big enough for your whole finger, with plenty of room for the rest of your hands on the side to move around, whereas the buttons on a Nintendo controller are tiny. Hector did have a technique for faster speeds on the NES version of Track and Field that
easy. Then you melt a piece of plastic that has like a bracket onto the button, and then you like that.
Involved moving 2 fingers back and forth on the A and B
Not
buttons.
allowed.
But in NES Tetris, all this would
do
do is flip your pieces really fast, which isn't that useful. What you need is something that will work for the D-pad. Interestingly, when Jonas Neubauer was a featured guest on renowned guitarist Rob Scallon's YouTube channel to teach him NES Tetris last year, Rob's first instinct was to actually try a rolling technique when being told about hypertapping, before realizing that it didn't really work.
When I was 7, we didn't have hypertapping.
I
actually can't tell by ear. When I was watching you drum, you had a lot of really rapid drumming motions. So I'm just picturing, it's hard to really, it's a very small D-pad.
So is there any way to effectively roll on the D-pad? In late 2020, a few people in the community experimented with alternative hand positions that could get multiple fingers access to the tiny buttons. All of these methods sort of worked, but had various drawbacks in comfort, consistency, and long-term viability, especially in also being to rotate at the same time. But eventually, one player came up with a simple idea. Instead of trying to roll the buttons on the D-pad, or rolling the finger on top of the D-pad, what if you just rolled the entire controller? The method was first discovered by Cheesefish, who was inspired to try rolling while hanging out on a Jake Games 2 live stream when a random person in the chat had the misconception that Jake was rolling his hand because the slow frame rate of his webcam made it hard to tell. Cheese watched a YouTube tutorial on button mashing where a player was getting extra taps on a GameCube controller by pushing the controller into the finger over the buttons from the other side. So he started trying techniques that involved hitting the controller itself. Cheese's grip holds his thumb still over the D-pad and rolls the fingers of his other hand across the bottom of the controller. This gives the fingers a ton more surface area to work with, as it effectively turns the bottom of the controller into one giant button. It took a lot of precision to manage, but in November 2020, he reported that with the right thumb pressure on top of the D-pad, he could get button pressing speeds of over 20 hertz, meaning 20 times per second, faster than even the fastest hypertappers in the world. The method wasn't yet reliable enough for Cheese to use in the 2020 World Championships, but he kept practicing, and on December 14th, 2020, he posted the first ever completion of 19.5 with rolling. And sure enough, on some of the moves, he was reaching speeds of more than 20 hertz. Soon, Cheese would start implementing rolling during actual competition after reaching level 29, and it was on full display last month during this match versus Joseph Saley during Beast and Shen's Classic Tetris Open.
What's going on?
Dude!
Dude. Oh, he missed it! No. That was pretty crazy.
This was both the first 1.3 million score and first
Jesus,
time
look at this
someone
guy.
had ever scored 4 Tetris
Joy,
past level
it's
29
way
in
faster than it's not even
competition. Even in
close
the age
though.
of hypertappers, seeing this kind of play on the kill screen is not normal. Barely a week ago on April 5th, Cheese set a new world record for highest score on a level 29 start with 259,000 in probably one of the most impressive NES Tetris games of all time. At the beginning, his stack looks like something you would normally see on level 19 speeds. At 46 lines, he misdrops a long bar, he gets another chance and misdrops a second long bar, but holds out and manages to get a third long bar over to recover the stack and keep the run going. At 66 lines, he even gets a perfect clear. Cheese also got his first max out done entirely with rolling last week, all the way from 18 to 29.
This is
But
actually
this is more
interesting,
of just
though.
a showcase of the playstyle. Since he's a pretty fast tapper already, it doesn't make as much of a difference if he's rolling on the earlier levels. But rolling would be a huge difference for a DAS player.
That's fucking
Teganek,
crazy.
who had the best qualifier out of all DAS players in the 2020 CTWC, has also been learning rolling, and he has an unusual grip where he stabilizes the controller with his foot. The results are undeniable though. It's an unusual grip where he stabilizes
Who the fuck drew this shit?
the controller with his foot. The results are undeniable though. He's posted videos of 19.5 attempts with piece movement that a DAS player could only dream of. Tegamek's videos are actually what convinced me to try this out for myself. When I first started hearing whispers of this, I was like, oh, this is another hyper tapper trick that only they can do. But seeing a fellow DAS player do it made me think, oh my gosh, maybe I can actually do this.
Funny because
I did
it's
my
so,
very first
It's just funny because sometimes things are so optimized to
stream
the
with
point where it doesn't
rolling
make
on
sense.
March
It just
29,
looks so.
and used Tega's foot
It looks so,
grip
like,
partly because
degenerate,
I thought it
dude.
was
You can't-
hilarious. At first, I could barely play at all. I was still getting used to different fingers controlling the movements, but I could see glimmers of the 20 hertz movement.
Oh, yes. Ha. Oh, yes. It's like I've hacked into Eric's hands to get that kind of movement.
I ended up switching from Tega's grip to
33,
Cheese's grip because it was more
xQcl.
comfortable for me long term, and over the past 2 weeks I've been practicing off and on, and the technique has been gradually getting more viable. I still have a long way to go before I can play consistently on
Interesting,
faster
though.
speeds, but hey, like every other NES Tetris
I was gonna
technique
click
that's
it.
legit,
I'm-
it's
I'm-
not an
I'm-
automatic
my
cheat code. You
CPS is
actually
pretty
have to
pleb mode,
practice.
I'm not
It
gonna
took
lie.
Cheese a fair amount of hours to get it down, but man, anyone who plays NES Tetris, especially if you're a DAS player, you owe it to yourself to at least try learning this.
How was that not interesting? That was actually really interesting. I enjoyed that video. I'm like a 11 CPS on a decent day and like 13 on a very good day, I think. Guys, I've said it before. The mouse that I'm using right now is a tail over clicking. It's very hard. You guys always say mouse loud. It's loud because the buttons are rigid. CPS tests. That was really slow. Fuck! What was my highest? 14? Fuck me! Yeah, I'm done with it. Is my foot? I can't make it go faster. I'm not. I would have to practice the grip. If you hold it above the foot a little bit, and you hold it slightly, you can probably do it. Fuck, I can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. Guys, what? You got how many to get? Oh, if I crash, okay, then. Fuck! I started really good though.
Front speed.
Fuck me. I'm done.